Alright guys, I wasn't expecting this today, but One Piece chapter 820 is out and I'm here to talk about it. And first and foremost, I want to talk about what's probably one of the most important revelations in this chapter, and that's the stuff with the log posts. And I talked about the stuff with the log posts in my first video and how it seemed kind of unusual that we haven't been using the whole New World log post thing since we got to the New World. And now it's been explained that it's actually pointing now to the end of the Grand Line, the island at the end of the Grand Line, which is not Raft Hill, which kind of clears up some confusion I had, because it's like, okay, there's got to be something more. There's got to be some different way to get to Raft Hill, and that's the whole thing with the road poneglyphs. And even with that, I still think there's going to be another thing that's going to add to the challenge of getting to Raft Hill, but this clears it up. Now it's just like, yeah, you can't just use the log post and go to that last island, and that's Raft Hill. You got to do something else, so it makes sense. But one thing that kind of got my head, scratching my head about this was really, like, their log post is already pointing to the last island in the Grand Line. Like, it doesn't really seem like they've gone that far in the New World, and from what it appears time-wise, they've only really been there for about a week or so, and they only really went to two islands, Punk Hazard and Dressrosa. So depending on how far apart those two are, oh, and I guess Zoe too, but depending on how far apart those are, yeah, it just didn't seem like they'd be that far along the Grand Line. And I'm glad that we're getting stuff like Whole Cake Island and Wano, because if that really was the end of the Grand Line they were pointing to, then man, it really would seem like this is coming to an end soon. So it was kind of curious that they've already come that far along in the New World, and it doesn't really seem like it. But there's still plenty of stuff to go, so I'm just gonna sit and wait for it all to happen. And I don't think that he's rushing to anything at all. I was just it was unexpected. That's just all I got to say about it. And I took some notes here because this was a pretty thick chapter in terms of information. But oh yeah, the title of the chapter was something like Dog and Cat Have a History. And when I read that title, I was like, oh damn, we're getting a flashback right now, and that's not what I want. I mean, of course I want to see this flashback between these two, because there's a lot of information that could be dropped in a flashback like that, especially with revelations in this chapter that they were a part of Whitebeard and Roger's crew. Like, there's a ton of shit that they can put in this flashback. Excuse me, but that's not stuff I want to see right now, because I want to see where the story's going to go next. I want to see where the crew's going to go, and I want to see all the stuff that's going on immediately in the island with Jack. So I'm glad that this is not a flashback chapter, and I'm glad that Oda's just like, hey, I'm going to give them information, but it's not going to be in flashback form. They're just going to tell them, and that's cool. And something that Nekomamushi said in this chapter is like, all this stuff, that's a story that we will tell one day. So it will be like in flashback form at some point in the story, and I can't wait for that. And I believe it's going to be in a very good part in the story. Like, Oda, if this was not the best part to tell it, he's going to put it in an even better part. If this was the best part to tell it, he would have told it. So I think waiting on that flashback is going to be good, and we're going to get it, and it's going to all make sense. It's going to be fucking amazing, and I can't wait for that flashback. But that's among other things I can't wait for, because there is so much stuff that's going on in the story right now. And another thing is with Marco the Phoenix, and I don't want to sound like hindsight bias and stuff, but I kind of had a feeling he would be coming back pretty soon to the story, because he was introduced at the end of the first half of the Grand Line, right before the time skip, and we get into the New World, and we don't really hear too much about him. So I'm glad that Oda explained everything with this whole payback war, and that's how Blackbeard became a Yonko. That's like when they started considering him to be a Yonko, and that really makes sense to me, because you can't just become a Yonko after what he did at the War of the Best. Like, he comes at the end of the War of the Best, he does some crazy shit with the Devil Fruit, and it's all impressive, don't get me wrong. All that stuff is unbelievable, and nobody, expected a man to be able to eat 2 Devil Fruits, but you gotta make a name for yourself in the New World before you become a Yonko. So having a war with Whitebeard's best division commanders after that's all said and done, that makes sense that he'd become a Yonko. But now, more importantly and more immediately, Nekomamushi and the samurai from Wano are looking for Marco the Phoenix to help them on Wano with Kaido and all that shit. So, an important thing that got brought up, I think it was in Roger Space video that I just watched, is that Weevil is Edward Weevil, the new Shichibukai, who thinks he's Whitebeard's son. He's on the tail of all these division commanders. So, if Marco the Phoenix gets brought into the story, that's a perfect way for Oda to bring in Weevil into the story, and that would be cool, especially if they're all on Wano and that whole Weevil storyline comes in too. And it's really just making this seem like this whole Wano arc is just going to bring everything together, and all these story points are going to come together. And man, it's just incredible. This story is getting woven together so perfectly, and God, I mean, he must have planned this out from so far out in advance. It's unbelievable. Payback War, I talked about all this stuff. Oh, Wano's strict borders. So, yeah, I knew the borders of Wano were strict. I knew it was a closed-off country, but I didn't know it was that strict. And it goes back to something that Ace said in the flashback with him and Little Oars Jr. is that he went to Wano. And I think Ace actually brought it up more than once, but Ace has been to Wano, so he had to get some way into Wano, and I think that has something to do with Lord Oden being on Whitebeard's ship, which is another revelation we got in this chapter, is Lord Oden was on Whitebeard and Gold Roger's ship. I probably already mentioned that, but, you know, these thoughts are just racing in my head, and this is just such a big chapter, so I don't know what I'm mentioning. I'm not keeping track, but yeah. Ace was in Wano, which is like, how did he get there? But I believe it was Lord Oden, and that's kind of cool. And now Luffy's going to go to Wano, so it's interesting if he's going to meet anyone in Wano that's going to know Ace. And he's going to probably meet at least one person that's, I knew Ace, and we're going to get that whole thing. But regardless of that, the thing that's most immediately exciting to me is they are on to a new location, and it's Whole Cake Island for Luffy, Brook, Chopper, and Nami, which really just makes me feel like Oda had this planned out all the way from the beginning of Dressrosa. He's like, all right, I'm going to take these crew members, and they're not going to be in Dressrosa. They're going to go on Zou, and these are the crew members that are going to go on the Whole Cake Island expedition to go save Sanji. So each part of the crew gets their time to shine. And I just think that's brilliant. Like, when the members were raising their hands, like, oh, I'm going to go to Whole Cake Island with Luffy instead of Wano. I was like, oh my god, like, those are the guys that didn't go to Dressrosa, and that's awesome. And it makes sense that Nami would want to go to Whole Cake Island because she's got to navigate the damn ship, and it makes sense for Chopper because he's got to take care of Peckham's. But when Brook just raised his hands like, oh, I got to go and play music, I mean, that was really just Oda saying, Brook wasn't in the last arc, so let's get him in this Whole Cake Island one. And that was pretty funny to me. And I'm glad with the way all this stuff is coming together, especially with the crew splitting up. I don't mind that all too much. And I'm excited for Whole Cake Island. It's kind of been forgotten over the past few weeks with all these revelations with the Minks and the Samurai and Wano Country. That's really what's been in the forefront. But Whole Cake Island's been on my mind like all this time. Like, I knew that had to be first, and I'm excited for Whole Cake Island just because that's more pressing in the story right now. Like, we got to go back, we got to get Sanji. So Whole Cake Island should be really fun, and I'm so pumped for that. Like, I don't want, like don't forget about that stuff. Like Wano, that's gonna come back soon. To like just sweep that under the rug for now. Whole Cake Island is where we gotta go. And God, I mean, all this revelation that's been going on with Wano, that's only one half of the story that's pressing right now. That's only one half of the immediate story. The other half of the immediate story with Sanji and the Vinsmokes and Big Mom, like, very little reveals with that. The only reveal we really got is that Sanji is from an assassin family called the Vinsmokes. So there's going to be even more reveals coming up with the Whole Cake Island arc, and there's going to be even more context to the story by the time we even get Sanji and get to the point where we can all meet up in Wano, where boom, it's just going to all collide, and it's going to be fucking amazing. Like, I can't even, like, think of another arc that's been so pumped up since like the Marineford War at that. Like, I can't even think of another arc that's been so hyped and so built up so carefully. Oh my god, it's just fucking incredible. Like, that's all I gotta say. It's fucking incredible. This is a great chapter. There's probably some stuff I didn't mention, but unbelievable chapter. I'm just excited to see what comes out. Oh, and one last thing is the stuff with Jack, because that's the most immediate stuff going on right now. Jack is actually attacking the island. Luffy hears a voice, which is probably the voice of all things he hears. So it would probably be Zoe, which is kind of like how he can hear the voice of the Neptunians. But my theory on what's going to happen with Jack and how they're going to handle that is they're just going to hightail it and escape. I don't think anyone's going to fight him. I mentioned that maybe Zoro would fight him in my theory video about his eye, but Zoro probably won't fight him at this point. Maybe he'll fight him sometime in the future, but I think Jack is not going to be dealt with at the moment. I think Jack is going to be dealt with in Wano. I think Jack, they're going to push forward, and he's going to be fought in Wano. And I'm not sure if he's going to be fought during the time while Luffy and the others are in Whole Cake Island, and maybe we'll get stuff with Whole Cake Island, and then we'll flash over to Wano, where they'll be fighting Jack. And I'm not sure how exactly that's going to be handled. Like, are they going to be going back and forth between Whole Cake and Wano as that's going on? I don't think that's how it's going to happen. I think it's going to be like Dressrosa, where we're going to mostly be following Luffy's side of the story. And then once we get back to Wano, we're going to get some flashbacks at exactly what happened, and then we're going to push forward. So that's what I think is going on with Jack right now. That's where I think everyone's heading. And again, unbelievable chapter. I'm so happy with the way this is going, and I can't wait. 2 weeks from now, it's going to be on break next week, but I can't wait to see what happens next. So, yeah, stay tuned for more videos, and have a great day.